Have you ever wondered if we truly become better people just because we want to? We often believe that with good intentions, our actions will lead to positive outcomes. But the truth is, even with the best intentions, things don't always go as planned. The saying, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions," reminds us that trying to help, whether for others or ourselves, can sometimes lead to unintended consequences. Let's explore this idea and how our well-meaning efforts might not always create the results we expect. At the heart of this dilemma is the belief that doing good for others makes us better. Many people genuinely want to help those around them, often offering assistance with phrases like, "Let me help you." But just because we want to help doesn't mean we know the right way to do it. There's an old fable that illustrates this perfectly. A monkey, seeing a fish struggling in water, thought it was helping by putting the fish safely up in a tree. Of course, the monkey didn't realize that a fish can't survive out of water, and its well-meaning actions ended up harming the fish. This story reflects how we sometimes misunderstand what people need, and with all the best intentions, might cause harm instead of good. This tendency to impose our own ideas of what is good extends far beyond individual acts of kindness. For over 100 years, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants from countries like Britain, Germany, and the United States have spread their culture, religion, and technologies across the world. They believed they were offering valuable gifts to other societies, introducing their way of life as superior. From education to political systems like democracy, these nations pushed their ideals on cultures they considered less developed. However, this forceful spread of ideas often came with an ultimatum: either accept our way of life or face consequences, even war. The assumption was that everyone would be better off living like them. Yet despite these well-intentioned efforts, it left many cultures feeling oppressed, controlled, and resentful. It's no surprise that many nations developed a deep sense of distrust and dislike for these so-called benefactors. The root of the problem lies in our assumption that we know what's good for others. Even when it comes to improving ourselves, the question arises, do we really know what's best for us? If we did, wouldn't we already be better? This uncertainty shows how difficult it is to determine what good really means. It's a challenge faced by geneticists today who are close to being able to engineer human traits. They could theoretically breed smarter, kinder, or more talented individuals. But the big question is, who decides what traits are ideal? If we humans are so flawed, how can we accurately determine the qualities future generations should have? There's a real fear that in trying to create a perfect human, we could end up making things worse. It's like when we manipulate nature to create high-yield crops or animals that are more efficient. It often leads to unintended environmental consequences. Similarly, if we start genetically engineering people, we might find ourselves facing new problems. Imagine a world filled with perfectly virtuous people, where everyone acts in morally ideal ways. While that might sound appealing, too much of a good thing can turn disastrous. Just as a single animal behaves naturally on its own, a swarm of them can be destructive. A world overflowing with perfect humans might become overwhelming and even harmful. The key idea I wanted to share is that diversity in human beings is crucial. We should not try to narrow down humanity to a select few types of people. Why? Because we don't know how the world will change or what kind of qualities will be needed in the future. Sometimes society might need people who are strong-willed, independent, and ready to take charge. In other situations, it might be better to have individuals who excel at working together in teams. There are also times when we need people who are really good at working with the physical world, solving practical problems, and creating innovations. But at other times, those who are more introspective, thoughtful, and focused on understanding their inner selves may be the ones needed the most. The world is unpredictable, and that's exactly why having a wide range of different personalities, skills, and strengths is essential for humanity's future. This challenge of diversity and unpredictability extends beyond human personalities into the field of genetics. We don't fully understand how to control or shape the world because it is incredibly complex. The world operates like a giant, interconnected organism where changing one thing can affect many others in unexpected ways. A similar issue arises in medicine. The human body is an intricate system where all the parts are connected. So looking at health problems too narrowly can lead to even bigger issues. For example, let's say someone has chickenpox and they develop itchy spots on their skin. At first glance, the solution might seem simple. Get rid of the spots or eliminate the virus causing them. But what happens when we try to just kill the virus? We may introduce other problems, like when rabbits were brought to Australia to solve one issue and ended up creating an entirely new crisis. This shows that trying to fix things in a simple, isolated way can lead to a cascade of unforeseen consequences. Instead of focusing only on the virus, it's important to understand why the body became vulnerable in the first place. Perhaps the person's immune system wasn't strong enough to fight off the infection, and instead of just treating the symptoms, what they really needed were vitamins to strengthen their body's natural defenses. But even when we try to boost the immune system, there's always the risk that by strengthening resistance to one virus, we might create an environment where another virus can take over. This is the challenge with treating humans in a piecemeal manner. In modern medicine, we have specialists for every part of the body. Doctors for the heart, lungs, bones, nerves, and more. Each one focuses on their area of expertise, but the human body is so complex that it's difficult for anyone to see the bigger picture. Even the generalists who try to take a more holistic view recognize that no single person can fully understand how all the parts of the body work together. And let's say we manage to find cures for all major diseases. We conquer illnesses like cholera, the plague, tuberculosis, cancer, and heart disease. What happens then? If people stop dying from these diseases, the population will grow rapidly, and that brings its own set of challenges. To control this growth, we might turn to birth control pills as a solution. But what about the side effects of those pills? What happens to people's psychological and emotional well-being when they no longer have children in the usual, natural way? These are questions we don't yet have answers to, and we must consider how such changes could affect society. We've seen time and again that what seems like a great solution today can turn out to be harmful in the future. DDT, for instance, was once hailed as an incredible breakthrough, but later we discovered it caused significant environmental damage. The same applies to ideas that were once considered great moral virtues or spiritual values in the past, but are now viewed as problematic or even destructive. This unpredictability reminds us that what we think is right and good today may not hold true for future generations. Let's explore the idea of the Inquisition and its significance, particularly in how it relates to our understanding of virtue and righteousness today. In its time, the Holy Inquisition was viewed by many Catholics as a necessary measure to protect their beliefs and society from what they considered dangerous ideas, like witchcraft and heresy. People believed these threats could endanger the eternal souls of individuals. Much like today's approach to medical treatments for severe illnesses, such as cancer, individuals at that time justified extreme measures to eliminate heresy. Just as modern treatments can involve complex surgeries or prolonged hospital stays, the Inquisition's methods were often severe and harsh, driven by the conviction that any means were justified to protect what they believed to be true. Interestingly, this mindset reflects a continuous thread in human behavior. We still see similar justifications for our actions today, even if they come under different labels. It is easy to look back at the Inquisition and recognize the harm and wrongness in those actions. However, we often struggle to see the same tendencies within ourselves. This raises a crucial caution about the nature of virtue. The ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu offered profound insights on this topic when he stated, "The highest virtue is not virtue, and therefore really is virtue. But inferior virtue cannot let go of being virtuous, and therefore is not virtue." To unpack this, we can think about how true virtue doesn't seek acknowledgement or praise for being virtuous. It simply exists and manifests in everyday actions. For example, when we breathe, we do not celebrate ourselves for the act of breathing. Breathing is an essential part of life and signifies vitality. In this sense, it can be seen as a form of virtue, representing the basic act of living. Similarly, when we look at our eyes, whether they are blue, brown, or green, we don't pat ourselves on the back for having them. We recognize them as a natural part of ourselves without labeling them as virtuous. This perspective helps us appreciate the value of seemingly ordinary aspects of life. In older interpretations, the word virtue signifies strength or healing power, much like the beneficial properties of certain plants. This type of virtue is authentic and substantial. In contrast, many of the virtues we discuss today can feel superficial or even artificial, often leading to conflict and problems. History shows that some of the most damaging actions have been carried out in the name of righteousness. People, regardless of their backgrounds, whether they are from China, Russia, or Vietnam, often engage in conflict believing they are morally justified. Each side views the other as evil, leading to a persistent cycle of misunderstanding and violence. The ancient sage Confucius remarked, "The goody-goodies are the thieves of virtue," which aligns with our saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. This illustrates that those who are overly focused on appearing virtuous may inadvertently cause harm. It's essential to recognize that intentions do not always align with outcomes. Therefore, as we navigate our own lives, we must remain vigilant about how our actions are influenced by our sense of righteousness. In our journey, it's crucial to strive for genuine virtue rather than seeking recognition for our actions. True virtue can be found in the simplicity of being alive and embracing our humanity. Let us focus on being present in our actions, acknowledging the beauty in the ordinary, and striving for authenticity in all that we do. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. If you found this discussion meaningful, please consider subscribing for more insights and reflections. Your support helps us continue this journey together.